Hi everybody, I'm Sarah Ockwell-Smith and welcome to this week's SOS Parenting video. So this week I have some really exciting news. My new book Between is coming out tomorrow. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about tweenagers, that's 8 to 13-year-olds, and really just focusing on a few key differences that children, as they are still at that age, have between them and adults, and why it's really important as a parent of a tween that you have realistic expectations of them and you don't expect them to behave and think and feel like you. So for tweens, 8 to 13-year-olds, very often they're having lots of growth spurts and they're getting almost as tall as us, sometimes even taller. And it can be really hard as a parent to see your little child suddenly becoming really big and keep your expectations realistic. What I tend to find happens is as kids get bigger, we expect them to behave more and more like us as adults. But the thing is, with tweens, it's just not like that. Their brain development is far from complete. They have at least another 10 to 15 years more of brain development to happen. And I always say, as I do in between, that actually at this age, their brain is more like that of a toddler than it is as an adult. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what to expect. But what we really need to understand about teenagers is that they very much live in the sort of the emotional part of their brain. They're ruled by big emotions. And a lot of people think this is because of hormones, and it really isn't. We blame entirely too much on hormones. And I talk about this a lot in between, that actually a lot of the behavior that parents struggle with during adolescence and puberty is down to brain development and not hormones. But what happens at this age is they're very much ruled by their mammalian, their emotional brain, and they tend to misinterpret the meanings of others as well. So they're very much living in this sort of big heightened state of emotion. So say that you're leaving to go somewhere in the morning and you're late and you say to them, get your bag, and they can't find their bag, they will instantly have a bit of sort of a big emotional explosion of a meltdown. And they literally at that point, they can't think rationally. They can't think about where they last had their bag. They can't think about where they put it when they came in. And they need you as the adult to step in and say, okay, when you came in, where did you put it? And they're just ruled by such emotions. If you say to them, calm down, you'll just make them worse. What you need to do is to help step in and be that external regulator and help them to calm down and bring a bit of logic and rational thinking to problems then. The other way that they misinterpret things with emotions is twofold. The first is very often you will find that you'll be quite calm and rational and talking to them about a problem. You know, please bring the glasses or the cups down out of your bedroom. And all of a sudden they'll say, stop shouting at me. And you're like, oh, I didn't shout at you. I actually didn't raise my voice. Oh, you're always so angry at me. You're always moaning at me. You're always having a go. You're always so shouting and angry. And you're thinking, well, I didn't shout and I wasn't angry. I just calmly asked you to bring the cups down from your room. That's because for a teenager, what they do is they misinterpret this because of the way that their brain handles emotions, and they read emotions into things that aren't there. So when you're saying, please bring the cups down, they think, whoa, mum or dad is really angry and they're really shouting at me, even though they're not. And you as an adult know that you're not. But the way that your tween's brain is acting is meaning that they're finding it pretty hard actually to kind of read into the meanings behind what you're saying. And actually in that case there was no meaning, but they've read something in that wasn't there. The other issue that they struggle with their emotions is they have a little bit of an empathy deficit in the tween and teen years. So it's really important at that age. A lot of that age is about growing apart from you. And I've mentioned this a lot in between. That sort of toing and froing when you sort of clinging to you as a little child, but pushing you away to go out into the big wide world. And in order to do a little bit of pushing you away, breaking free from you and realizing who they are and becoming their own person, they have to look inwards. They have to think about who they are away from you. And in order to do that, they have a little bit of a drop of empathy. Because they're so focused inwards, they become less focused on those around them. And what I would often find is parents of tweens would say is, well, they're so selfish, they're so self-centered. And actually, in a sense, they're right. They are self-centered because their focus is centering inwards on themselves. But it doesn't mean that you've created this horrible person. It doesn't mean that they're going to be selfish and have this sort of empathy deficit forever. It's a really, really normal part of the tween years. It's really important for them to focus on who they are, their place in the world and in the wider sort of society outside of their immediate family, and who they will be in the future. So, three things that your child is going to do in the tween years that are totally normal, not a sign that you've done things wrong, not a sign that they're going to be doing that forever. Empathy deficits, misreading emotions and struggling to control emotions when they're stressed or anxious. All of these are normal parts of the tween years, and they are all totally focused on their brain development, not hormones, not your parenting, nothing you've said or done wrong, a normal part of the tween years. Hope that's explained a little further. Please do come and dig into Between. I'm really, really proud of the book. I have teenagers, so this is a really fresh stage in my mind, and I'm really excited that finally there's a book out there that properly talks about tweens and their behaviour and their relationships with their parents and their brain development. And I really hope you love it as much as I loved writing it. But thanks for tuning in. See you soon. Bye.